All right, so I am filming today just an intro video for the first dye tutorial. I actually dyed this first video that'll play in a few minutes, like almost 2 years ago. So I'm just trying to play around and figure out how I want to present the videos, what's practical and useful and of value to people. And so in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing how I use landscape dyes. So these come from Australia, from Craft Color, and they are brilliant dyes. They're really good if you're not comfortable with color mixing, because the colors out of the container are so beautiful. Here's an example. This is the one that's going to be in the tutorial that I'll show soon. And so it's got a beautiful dusky sort of purple, a nice soft warm pink, and a beautiful lichen. These are all out of the container, and then they mix and blend in the pot as well and create their own colors as well. Same with this. This is landscape dyes. I've got the recipe written down somewhere. I need to learn not to pick fluff off of everything while I'm showing this, and just I'm a preener. So these are also landscape dye colors. Again, there's heath in there, and I believe lichen, because that's one of my favorites, and I think even dusk might be in there again, but I've just added a really beautiful blue. And then that blue has mixed with various colors to create like less of a warm yellowy green and a bit more of a, green that leans more blue, etc. So this particular tutorial is showing you how I use the landscape dyes. I have quite a few, and you can get them in small, nice little 100 gram amounts. You can get them in sets. Sometimes they sell them in nice sets, so you can get just beautiful. If you're not comfortable with color mixing, I think landscape dyes are a wonderful place to start, and especially if you're in Australia or New Zealand, and it can be just a bit harder to get access to dyes that aren't sort of primary color based, like the Ashford dyes, which are great. Ashford dyes are brilliant dyes, and you can get them, just in little kits where you can get your primary colors like red, blue, yellow, and then black and brown. Those are great if you're comfortable with color mixing or confident enough to learn how to play and make mistakes and learn as you go and write notes and that kind of a thing. So today's tutorial is really just showing the basic process that I use when I kettle dye, sort of like what size pot I use, how much water I put in, how much citric acid or vinegar, and then just the basic landscape dyes that are really simple and easy to use for those who aren't super confident. I will be doing more tutorials on using, oh, there's a big spider on that. I work out of a garage studio, so I'm gonna put that down over here. Let that guy make a little nest and catch moths. I will be putting together a tutorial for Ashford dyes, so just getting more comfortable with color mixing, and I'll use Dharma dyes as well, because those are so common in North America and easier to access for people in North America. And again, just some of the primary colors that I use from Dharma to get really nice colors like this, and same with Ashford to get like really beautiful colors. These are all Ashford, so these are yarns that I have dyed using very basic Ashford dyes. So nice earthy muted colors. I mean, believe it or not, that's got like violet, a really bright violet. Some of them have fuchsia, other ones have like bright orange to start off with, and so it's going to be fun just to show how I blend some fairly primary or secondary colors, primary being the red, yellow, blue, secondary being the ones that we make out of those, so green, orange, and purple, and how we sort of mix them to make really soft hues. Because yeah, it's color mixing is definitely a science, and it's something that it's like you have to learn the language of color if you're not familiar with it, and I certainly did. It took me about 6 months of dyeing every day to really like learn my colors, the colors that I liked, and how to get those colors using the basic dyes that I had access to, and then slowly I have tons of dyes now, but to be honest, there's a whole bunch of them that I don't really use because I found the colors that I really enjoy, and so I'm a bit of a creature of habit. Anybody who's followed me in the journey of Union Fibre will know that purple showcases a lot, especially like certain mauvey, earthy purple, I often say, or earthy mauve, those kinds of colors. It's just one of my absolute favorite colors. And so I tend to make that same color out of so many different types of dyes. It's like, what I've said to students in the past is that it seems that we often have a homeostasis of the colors that we like. And so even when we're using colors that might be totally not look like anything what the final product looks like, we often wind up at the same final product. This is another color that's a great example of one that's like my homeostasis. It's like a real concrete sort of bluey gray. Anyway, so the tutorial that, very first tutorial I'm putting out is for this beautiful braid of fiber. And this is Haunui Fog. I think it's the Fog in about a 27 micron. It always surprises me if you're not familiar with Haunui fiber, or if you are, the hand feel, the softness of the fiber is so much softer than the micron count. So the micron being like how thick the individual strands are. They always feel so much softer. And yeah, so I've done this other color as well on the Haunui Fog, and that will be in one of my following tutorials. This tutorial is quite brief, it's quite short, and I get the sense that there's going to be quite a few questions. So I really encourage to ask questions. Pop your questions in the comments and I'll go through them. And what I plan to do is put out, maybe like every fortnight or so, I'll put out question and answer videos so that people can ask their questions. I'll compile them, video some answers, and then I'll post that. And it can just be like a little add-on to this tutorial, just so that it can give you more guidance. Because I'd really like to share everything that I know based on my own methods. So this method that I'm showing you is the way that I do it. It's the way that I learn. I like the way the colors blend together in the kettle dyeing. It's just a bit organic the way the dyes move around the pot, but they still manage to stay fairly put in their place. So you don't wind up with too much mushing together of colors. I show in the video how I coil these into pots, but I just wanted to show you, I mean, you can kind of see it in the braid, but there is a bit of a uniform way that like a sequence, I would call it, where there's like green, and then we've got the purple there, and we've got the pink here, and then it goes around in that same shape again, and we've got the green again. If we go around in the right way, green goes there, purple, and then again the pink color, and the green. And so how I actually get this sequencing in a kettle dye method is exactly how you're seeing this. When I put my fiber into the pot, I coil it up like this and I lay it into the pot. You're going to see this in the video. Because it's going in a coil and I'm dyeing in sections, so I'll put a dye here in the pot, dye here, and then dye here, then each one of those bits gets clustered in with all that dye there, and then the pink will stay here and the purple will stay here, and then they'll do a little bit of mixing here and there. You don't have to put your fiber in the pot like that. You can put your fiber into the pot in a higgledy-piggledy kind of way, so you can really mix it around and you'll get a much more random way that the dye hits the fiber. So I think the first thing that I want to say in my first sort of video that I'm going to share is that it's really up to the person, your own creative process. It's up to your own creative inclinations of what you want to do. Do you want it to be more controlled? Do you want it to be more just surprising and unpredictable? You can tailor your technique to sort of suit just the hoped intended effect. The other thing on that note is that when you're learning, or if you're learning a new method, give yourself some grace. This is easier said than done. And allow yourself to fail. Allow yourself to experience different results, like drastically different results to what you intended. That's really rich coming from me, because I can be such a perfectionist. And my partner's often telling me, like, I'm just so hard on myself. And I'm sort of a weird mix of pedantic and chaos. And so I can be really meticulous and sciencey about the way that I sort of, this is the way that I do this. You know, the temperature has to be at this. I make my fiber like this, and I try to control the situation. But I'm often humbled by the natural chaos of creativity. The creative process is chaotic. it is unpredictable because we do sometimes get into a bit of a flow state and things morph and change. So I kind of want to encourage that dyeing, while there is a real sciencey side and something where there are definitely certain rules that you need to follow in order to have like dye set, for example, or yeah, certain, if you're going for, you know, blue and you're using certain dyes, like, yeah, if you start mixing in the opposite of that, you know, then you're going to want it with brown, for example. So if you don't want brown, then don't mix blue and orange together. Don't mix purple and yellow together. Don't mix red and green together, you know, those kinds of things. But if you are going for those, then you can use those kind of rules or laws, really, of color theory to help maneuver in the direction that you would like to try and go for it. And then learn from your, not necessarily mistakes, but from the unpredictable things that happen. So if dyes aren't setting, then there's definitely something that is going on. So either there's not enough citric acid, or there's too much citric acid or vinegar. The temperature might not be right. You're not letting it set long enough. So there's some big things that people have asked in just on Instagram already about, you know, how do I dye fiber without it felting, and how do I, yeah, just some getting sequence kind of style fiber in a pot rather than big trays. You might have seen people dye in big trays, and so you can lay out fiber and have much lower immersion. And when I say that, I mean much less water to immerse the fiber into. So that's called low immersion, or you have high immersion dyeing. So where you have high immersion is where you have lots of water for the fiber to move around and therefore the dyes to move around. There's a lot more migration of the dyes, whereas low immersion, whether it's yarn or fiber that you're dyeing, is going to have less medium, you know, water sort of for the dye to be able to migrate and move around. So you can control the dye a little bit more. But also with low immersion, you can run the risk of not necessarily getting as much dye as you want in certain areas, so you have to be a bit more meticulous, again depending on the desired outcome, if you're really going for a specific effect. So I guess, like, we're all gonna approach this process differently, and this is one of like infinite ways that you can dye fiber. Today's fiber, but I'm going to show yarn as well, and I'm going to do them more as like a project-based thing too, where we might do a specific colorway, and I am actually going to share some of the colorways that I've dyed and sold in the past, some of the favorites and stuff, because I'm just at the stage, like, I don't feel territorial about my colors or my process. The whole reason Union Fibre came about, it's called Union Fibre because I wanted cohesion. You know, I felt lonely in a fractured world, and I wanted to create something that brought people together and brought the loves of my creative life together, you know, clothing and color and fiber and fabric and textiles. You know, that was a real thing that my mom really loved and instilled in me. And so, yeah, I just want to share that love and that generosity of spirit, really. And I don't care who uses I don't care if you're, you know, dyers wanting to learn a new technique that you haven't tried before and you want to use the colorways that I'm offering. Like, I'm really truly saying, like, this is just, I'm gifting this to the world in a time when I feel like we need each other more than ever, and there's more polarization than ever. And so I just want to offer a little bit of happiness from my garage, my garage with spiders, you know, that share the place with me. Yeah, so anyway, that's what I'm here to show in my very first video, which I recorded almost 2 years ago. We're in the depths of winter right now, and I'm reaching for my woolens constantly, whereas when I did these videos, recorded these videos, we were in the height of summer. So it's different in here right now. It's darker, harder to get the lighting and whatnot, and I had to do a voiceover for the tutorial that I'm going to show. So it's my first time ever recording and editing, and I put the captions on as well, but they don't necessarily line up with the voiceover, so that might actually be a little bit frustrating. You might want to just listen and watch, and then you can always tune out my voice and read what I've written underneath as well. So yeah, I've hoped to offer the very basics of what you need, but it might not be totally clear because this is a process I've done thousands of times. And so I want to again reiterate that if you have questions, this is like a fully open book. I'm a fully open book. I want you to ask. I don't want you to be afraid that I might not share something with you. I just want to share what I know, and I will answer as best I can. And if it's, again, not clear, just ask, re-clarify, and then I'll try to give you the information that you really need. So I'm going to try and make all this as practical as possible, hence why I want to try using lots of different dyes. I want to share different fibers that I love. So this is Haunui, which is a purely New Zealand breed. There's only one farm in the world that offers this fiber. It's a very special breed, long enough staple that it's comfortable to spin even as a beginner. But it also has a nice crimp and bounce and softness to it. Really nice hand feel. So I'm a big fan. This is a triple blend. This one I dyed. These ones, again, I dyed like 1.5 years ago in the tutorial that I'm sharing, and then I'll share this one. But these ones I dyed the other day. I have to find my recipe. I've just tried to organize, and like I said, I'm a real mix of pedantic and chaos, and the recipes lean into the chaos side in terms of organizing them. Writing them, pedantic. Organizing and storing, chaos. So I will try and find what I did for this, because I love this one. If you guys are keen on a video of my favorite dye colors, I will happily share that. So yeah, my favorite fibers, my favorite, and then places where you can access them, especially in Australia and New Zealand. I'm more familiar with New Zealand in terms of fiber and yarn. And then the UK is another area. I'm not super familiar with where you can buy combed top. This is combed top in like North America. So again, like if you want to offer anything in the comments for people, if you're in, Canada, you can say this is where you love getting a beautiful type of fiber if it's a specific breed. I'm just here for knowledge and sharing of resources, really. So yeah, if you're into that, follow along, and I will share my processes and all the things that I have sort of learned over the years. And I would love to hear if any of you end up actually using the tutorial, what you dye. I'd love to see things. So I'm on Instagram under Union Fibre, but it's Fibre, so it's the Canadian or UK spelling of fiber. And then, yeah, I have my website, and you can subscribe there as well. I send out newsletters very infrequently. I need to get better at sending them out more frequently, but such is life. Life has been really busy. We've had a puppy for the last 3 months, and I have to admit that was like a real wild experience of, I'm kind of coming out of the darkness, but I found it like really confronting. Like it felt almost like having postnatal depression again, and being stuck and really isolated, and so I'm just sort of feel like I'm coming out of that fog, and trying to enjoy, like I have to admit, I've hardly done any spinning, I've hardly done any knitting, otherwise I'd be sharing projects with you right now. But it's just been a lot, and I think anybody who's had a puppy, especially a blue heeler, or a working breed, it's a full-time job. And so yeah, I'll bring her on screen sometime, but she's asleep right now, so I can do some filming. And yeah, so I'm hoping that, especially we're in the depths of winter, can't say it's my favorite time of year. It's been almost pure rain for the last month and a bit. And so yeah, trying to get out, a couple times a day for a decent walk with a working breed dog, that's we're just covered in mud, so always covered in mud. I live in my Blundstones, and my I have an Australian farming jacket, and I'm just perpetually covered in mud. I look forward to lighter weather and sun, although I should have lived in a different part of New Zealand, or possibly a different part of the world. It does rain a lot in New Zealand, and it's a real damp, humid, kind of cold here in the winter, even though it's like we're getting down to 2 degrees right now in the depths of winter. That is kind of the coldest that it really gets where we are. We hardly get frosts. but it's humid and it just goes to your bones. So I haven't been wanting to be out in my studio, and it's dark. The light, we live sort of in a bit of a bowl, and so the light goes, yeah, we lose the light easily. So filming's been really hard. Yeah, so I will be filming more. I probably didn't mean for this to be as much of a novel as it is, but a lot of you have never really seen me on screen. I'm a bit of a hermit, and I'm quite a solitary creature. Yeah, and at the best of times, I'm solitary and a bit, you know, recluse. So yeah, I'll try and be a little bit more present, because I would love to just be available for people. You know, I'll do a big sort of question answering, like I'm not going to get to things right away, but it'll be within a, you know, the week that I'll answer questions and that kind of a thing. So anyhow, I'm going to make sure this is still recording. Here I am adding cold water to the pot. That's what I have on hand in the studio, just rainwater. You can use hot water from the tap as well. So I have to heat my water up now to about 50 degrees Celsius. An uncomfortably hot bath temperature is kind of what we're looking for just to start off with. Stirring in my acid. I've got 1.5 teaspoons of citric acid for about 100 grams or 4 ounces of fiber. You can also use a 1/4 cup of white vinegar in place of the citric acid. So now that the temperature is up here, I gently place in my fiber. I've got 100 grams of Haunui fiber here, and I'm just gently pressing it down into the pot of water. So I've probably got about 3 inches, or like, I don't know how many centimeters that is, 9 centimeters or so of water in the pot. So there's not a huge amount of room for it to move. Here I have some landscape dye in the colorway Dusk. I'm using 1 teaspoon dissolved in 1/2 cup of hot water. It's okay if it's not fully dissolved. Carefully place it. I'm dividing my fiber into about thirds. So I imagine it in my head as like a third there. The Dusk is going in that location. Now we're using a teaspoon of the colorway Lichen, again dissolved in 1/2 cup of hot water. The hot water just helps the dye powder dissolve a little bit more easily. You'll notice I'm giving just a little bit of room between each of the thirds of dye that I'm putting in, and that's because the dyes do actually spread as they're setting in the pot over time. Again, just rinsing out my measuring cup, any residual dye. This colorway is called Heath that I'm adding now. It's a lovely pink, pale pink. They're all landscape dyes. So again, 1/2 cup hot water, dissolve. And I'm going to pour it over in that last sort of third. So again, just pour it over. It's okay if there's a few granules left over. Just fill the cup up with a little bit of water, rinse it out, get that last bit of dye. And now here, what I do is I actually just gently, very gently, so I don't felt the fiber, just move the dye around a little bit so there's not as much undyed fiber. So in this dye experiment, I am not trying to go for a full saturation of each third. I'm wanting to leave a little bit of that nice natural fog color of the Haunui fiber undyed. And so now I just place the lid on. We leave it to come up to temperature about 92 degrees Celsius for non-silk blends, about 82 degrees Celsius for silk blends, so you don't lose the luster. And we leave it at that temperature, hold it at that temperature, usually on a low heat on the stove top, for about an hour, sometimes even 2. And that allows the color to set. You can see how the water in this pot is now really nice and what we call exhausted. It's really important to note that the fiber has completely cooled overnight before I am taking it out to rinse. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Again, put any questions, comments that you want down in the comments section, and I will get back with helpful, tips. I will put as much information in the description box as I can and links. Hit me up with questions. Yeah, I would love to see what you guys are doing. It's nice to share the things that we create and the things that bring us joy. It's really inspiring to be able to see what other people are doing, and I'm hoping I'll be out of my slump at some point, but in the meantime I am enjoying learning how to edit videos. And oh, there's in here. I'm trying to record a video, buddy. Huh? I'm trying to record a video. Are you getting your bike?
Yeah, I'm going on to.
Okay, hurry, grab it, but don't touch my tripod. Okay. Don't touch it! Oh! That's it. Have fun.
Bye. I love you.
I love you too. So really beautiful fiber. Highly recommend. I'll put a link for Haunui farm because they're my favorite. Such beautiful fiber. Such well looked after sheepies. Yeah, and really easy to access if you're in New Zealand or Australia, and even like they ship worldwide. So I'm just going to put a big plug in for Haunui Farm and the wonderful people who work incredibly hard to help produce some of the most stunning wool fiber I've ever had the pleasure of dyeing and spinning and knitting with. So because people always ask, I thought I would share what this knitted vest is. It's got this really neat detail down the back. This is the Carly vest by Elizabeth Smith Knits, and it is one of my most worn pieces. It's like a DK 8-ply weight, and I love it because you can make it different lengths. It's got a cute little split hem. I've made one that's a bit longer. I've made this one that's a little bit shorter. I plan to make another, but it's super versatile. It's so cozy. This one's a Swedish Gotland that I held some Surrey silk fluff with to make it more wearable, because Swedish Gotland is very crunchy, especially the actual Gotland from Sweden. So I had to add the alpaca silk in order to make it not feel like I was wearing sandpaper or a cactus. So yes, anyway, that's my vest. This sweater, I wish I had knitted it. It's not. It's from Muji in Vancouver, so it's just from a clothing store. I've worn it to death. I would like to replicate it. So if anybody knows of a pattern that's got that kind of brioche, I think it's a half brioche stitch, I would love to know, especially in something that's a little bit like more like a 4-ply or a sport, because it's my most worn sweater. And yeah, anyway, thought I'd throw that in there just as a little Carly by Elizabeth Smith Knits. Truly, this would be a great one for if you're a beginner knitter, like have maybe knit a little bit but want to go for your first garment. I think it's a fabulous piece. It's so simple, and yeah, just lots of different options. This is a sport weight Gotland held with a Surrey lace weight, so to make up a DK weight. But yeah, there's lots of different options. You can hold a 4-ply with a silk mohair. You can use just a DK weight yarn. I've done 2 more rustic versions. This was a bit more rustic, and the other version I knit in a beautiful Romney woolen spun, so a bit of a loftier yarn. That's a very local yarn to me here. Yeah, you can knit it in a superwash DK if you want, or you could do a silk blend if you want to make it just a little bit more fancy. So I'm a bit rough as guts on things, so I often have things in a bit more rustic, crunchy yarn, because they hold up better in my day-to-day. Here I am, like, staring at how many claw marks from my dog are in my knits right now. I'm trying to like avoid wearing certain things because everything's full of holes from puppy teeth and claws. So yeah, beware if you have a puppy. Don't wear your nice hand knits near them, or knits in general for that matter. So yeah, that's that. Very simple, highly worn, highly loved, and one of the best. Also doesn't use as much yarn just because it is a vest. So yeah, it's fabulous. My partner's out there looking at me. Hey, why don't you come say hi? Come on now. You want to be on video?
I know, am I allowed to be on video?
You're allowed to be on video, but you have to give me a sip of tea.
Okay.
Hey everyone, this is Matt. He's the super helpful person who makes everything possible. He tells me when I'm being too hard on myself.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
I know, it's hard. Okay, I'm done now.